Yeah. So in this question, read one, we need to identify the file which needs to like identify the file format which needs to be stored in the ADLS, and also we need to identify the file format for report 2. Report 1 says only 3 columns should be selected. Okay. Report 2 should select only single row. So that is the reason report 1, I'm interested in 3 columns. So its better performance will be achieved when I store the data in the column store format. So I'll go for the Parquet. Okay. And when you say report 2, it only a single record based on the timestamp. So I'll go for the row based storage. So we have CSV and Avro, but Avro has supported Hadoop with the compressor logic. So I'll go for the Avro over here. Okay. And today, when you get time, you note down. So you go through the difference between Parquet and Avro file formats. Now, this is very interesting and important question. See here, and with the analytical ability that you have, you should be able to answer this question. Actually, you're designing a folder structure in ADLS. Okay. Users will query data by using a variety of services, including Databricks or Synapse serverless SQL. Okay. The data will be secured by subject area. The data will be secured by subject area. Most queries will include data from the current year or current month. Which folder structure should you recommend to support fast queries and simplified folder security? Okay. So how the data should be stored, how the folder structure should be there in ADLS. Okay. So if you see this here, the primary data is the subject area. The data will be secured by subject area, and the data query should be in the current year or current month. So how the file should be stored when we are ingesting the data from external data sources, how the file should be stored is asking. So can you analyze and tell me the answer?
Answer is D.
Okay, right. Okay, answer is D only. Okay, because the data is coming at subject level, and the security is coming at the subject level, folder level. So what I try to do is I will divide the data, I will segregate the files, folders at the subject area, so it's easy for me to achieve the goal. Because say suppose the subject area can be here, say suppose a department wise. Okay, it's a department wise I'm doing. Say suppose HR data or payroll data, or I can say subject data, computer science data, or physics data, or humanities data I will store. Okay, then in that I will say data store. So from again at subject I can have different sources. So in the physics I can have distant source 1, source 2, source 3. Again in the source 1, source 2, source 3 data, the data can be data is coming every day, right? The data is coming every day. So for what I will do, I will say I will create a folder in such a way that the top will be year, then the month, then the data. Okay, so 2021 September 25th data will be stored in the 25th folder. Then the 2021 October data will be stored in the October month with the specific dates, and the data file name will be embedded with the YYYMBDD for better understanding or better organizing. Okay, so that's how in the real time also the data will be segregated in the same way. So it is very important even in the real time purpose as well. Okay, so once a analysis or data scenario has been given, you should be able to determine, you should be able to imagine, first you imagine how the data is coming and how the data should be organized, what is the frequency of the data which is coming, and from which stores it's coming. So based on that, you should be able to analyze and create the folder structure. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes.
Now you need to output files from the Azure Data Factory. Which file format should you choose for each type of output? To answer, select the appropriate options. Each correct answer worth 1 point. Maybe I missed something. No, okay, this is the question only. Fine. 1 second, give me a minute. Yeah. So here is saying that we are writing the data to 2 files. Okay, 2 files, and one format it should be column format. One format it should be JSON with the timestamp format. Okay, so what is the file type that you choose in this case? So simple, for column format, which one you choose?
TXT. TXT.
No, column format, not column format. Column format means the column wise column storage, so it will be Parquet. Okay, so I was keep on saying that, right? The Parquet format will store the data in the column store format and with more compression. Okay, so when they say column format, it will be Parquet, and JSON with the timestamp. So with the JSON with the timestamp, then I will go for the Avro format. Okay. So and you today, as I was saying, you read up more about Avro and the difference between Parquet and Avro, which are widely used formats in the data engineering. Okay, now one more interesting. Yeah.
Column format and columnar format, is there any difference?
Columnar format is columnar store index only. What is columns? Columns is different, just columns. There is nothing called column format, is only columnar format, where the data will be grouped according to the columns.
Okay.
Now see this question and tell me the answers. So one of you can read.
Okay, I will read.
Yeah.
You have a data model that you plan to implement in a data warehouse in Azure Synapse Analytics, as shown in the following exhibit.
Yeah.
There is a table, dim employee, and
dim employee, dim customer, dimension time, fact.
Fact.
Yeah. So how many dimensions it? How many dimension tables it has?
3 dimension table, 1 fact table.
1 fact table, right? So 3 dimension tables, 1 fact table. So fact table will have the keys from the dimension tables and all the facts it has. And also next question is very important. Now, read in detail. All the dimensions table will be less than 2 GB.
2 GB after compression.
After
and the
compression.
Fact table will be approximately 6 TB.
TB, yeah.
TB, okay.
Yeah.
The dimension table will be relatively static with very few data insert and update. Which type of the table should you use for each table to answer the select appropriate?
Yeah. Now you should read that all the dimensions are less than 2 GB,
2 GB.
and very less inserts. Okay. So what do you choose for quick performance? For dimension customer, what do you choose? Hello, sorry.
Round robin.
Replicated you will choose. Okay. If you remember the previous sessions, I was saying that when the data is less than 2 GB and there are very few insert updates for the dimensions, it is better to go for the replicated. What is replicated? A copy of a table will be placed on each and every distribution, so that the performance will be faster when you read the data. Right? If it is more than 2 GB, then I need to think I'll go for the round robin or hash distributed. Now here less than 2 GB, so not much data, so I'll go for the replicated. And if I'm going for replicated for one dimension, obviously those two things also will go for replicated only, because all these three tables has same properties, less than 2 GB and relatively static and with very few insert and updates. Getting? Got it?
Yes, got it.
Yeah. So if three are same properties, then I don't need to think about rest of the two. Three will be having the same kind of distribution mechanism. And see fact table. So fact table has 6 TB more data. So which one you'll go for? Fact tables. Hash distributed. So for fact tables, always you'll go for the hash distributed. And dimension table, you'll go for less than 2 GB, you'll go for replicated. Otherwise, you'll go for round robin. But if the dimension data also very huge, then for dimension also you'll go for the hash distributed. But in just a general case, for fact tables, you'll go for hash. For dimension, you'll go for the round robin. If it's less than 2 GB, you'll go for replicated. If it is more data, then for that also you go for the hash distributed. Okay, so these are the questions very important related to the exam and even the interview and even your real time also.
Round robin, when will we go round robin?
Round robin is dimension table which has the data, and if it is kind of a optimal amount of the data, whereas in GBs or 1 TB or something. Okay, but if it's like less than, like more than 2 dB, if it's a huge data, then I'll go for the hash only, even for the dimensions. But relatively, dimensions has less amount of data compared to fact, so I'll go for the round robin. So the data will be evenly distributed across all compute nodes.
I mean, if the data of dimension table is more than 2 GB, we'll go for round robin.
Right.
If it is less than or equal to 2 GB, we'll go for replicated.
Exactly, you're right.
Okay.
No, I think I already discussed this question. Now ADLS container, and they have some properties for the data. Okay, new data set is accessed frequently and must be available as quickly as possible. Data that is older than 5 years is accessed infrequently, but must be available within 1 second. Data that is older than 7 years is not accessed at all. After 7 years, the data must be persisted at the lowest cost available. Cost must be minimized. So what is the 5 years old data you'll choose? What is the tier you'll choose? I'm talking about tier here. Hello?
Hot storage.
Archive storage.
For 5-year-old, which one you'll choose? Hot or
Hot.
archive?
Hot.
Hot I will choose. Why you are choosing hot?
Because I need to access the data, right? In no time.
With no time, yes. Here the key thing is you should read the question properly. Within 1 second. That means the data should be accessed very quickly when you access the data. Okay, so you have the option of cool as well. When you are accessing, when you are not particular about the data access speed. Okay, hot will load the data with high cost. Okay, but the data is accessible very quickly. Okay, cool also access data with very less cost, but the data access will be slow. When you're not particular about the data accessing speed, then you'll go for the cool. But here saying that within seconds, then I will go for the hot storage. And 7 years you are not at all accessing, then what you'll go for?
Archive.
You'll go for the archive, because it's not at all access. I'll go for the archive. If it is trying to access and there is no condition on the access speed, then I might go for the cool.
Cool.
Okay, for new data, what I will go?
Hot.
Hot, obviously I'll go for the hot. Access very frequently and available as quickly as possible. For new data, I'll go for the hot only. Now you see this. You need to create a partition table in Azure Synapse Analytics. So basically what it's trying to do is creating the partitions. Read, one of you can read the question. Sudhakar, you can read the question.
Yeah, you need to create a partition table in an Azure Synapse Analytical dedicated SQL pool. How should you complete the transact SQL statement? To answer, drag the appropriate values to the correct targets. Each value may be used once, more than once, or not at all. You may need to drag the split bar between panes or scroll to view content. Each correct selection is worth of 1 point.
So basically you should drag and drop. Here the drag and drop is not there because I just copied. Now tell me what are the properties, otherwise you tell me the properties, whatever the properties that you do while creating the table in the dedicated SQL pool. Tell me first, what are the common properties that you do?
Create master key.
Yeah,
Sir,
I mean, master key, scope credentials.
man, don't get confused with the external table and the dedicated SQL table.
Uh-huh.
Are you able to see an external here?
No, it's normal.
Then why you are saying external data source? This is not external table. This is a normal table. In external table, you do all the steps and you give the location and the file format and the data source. Okay. But in the dedicated SQL pool, you give the distribution mechanism, then the index type, and also one of the more important thing is the partition. Okay, so we did not discuss about the partition. So in the partition, what you do is you partition the data based on the data range. You know the partition in the SQL? You must be knowing the partition in the
Yes.
SQL.
Yes.
Yeah, the same logic here. There is no change at all. Here also the same partition. So based on the partition, the data will be distributed into the compute nodes here. Now, what is the hash ID here?
Distribution.
Yeah, hash
Distribution.
ID is the distribution. Distribution equal to hash of column. When you say hash key, you should give the column name. Otherwise, I can say round robin or replicated I can give. Now hash of ID. So the hash distribution, I'll get distribution. Now here it is a partition. Here I'm just getting the partition of ID range left for values 1 to 1 lakh or 2 million or something. So the starting point, incremental point, ending point, based on this, I will try to partition the data. Okay, I gave you the link, just go through that. And there is nothing new here apart from only the synapse. Okay, the same concept of what do you say, SQL partition only here. Got it? Any confusion? And when I don't give any distribution, what is the default one it will take? What is the default distribution mechanism?
Round robin.
Round robin. Round robin is the default distribution mechanism if I don't give anything. Now see here, you need to design a table in dedicated SQL pool following requirements. Can return employee record from a given point in time. Okay, maintains the latest employee information, minimize the query complex. Okay, so it should give the record at any given point of time, from a given point of time. Very simple, already we discussed. And knowingly, unknowingly, I made it as different font also. So when you say that, from a given point in time, employee record should be there from a given point of time. That means, say suppose employee was a technical lead from 2020 to 2021. Then he became manager from 2022 from 2023. Then he became senior manager, technical manager from 2023 to 2025 or something. Okay. If suppose the query is that how do you access this data? Sorry, what is the employee information 2021? Okay. So in 2021, only SCD2 only I should be able to achieve this. Getting, if it is normal table, I may not be able to achieve. Getting, are you with me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now, how many people know temporal table in SQL? How many of you know the temporal table?
Temp tables, right?
No, not temporal table, not temp table. Just read that. Temporal table. Have you ever worked with a temporal table?
Myself, no.
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 Okay, I work with one of the project in US company, temporal table. So temporal table is kind of a SCD. We can achieve SCD with the temporal table in SQL Server. So which has versioning system. So what you do is you create the table. Okay, you create the table and then you give the whatever the fields you are trying to use for the storing the history. Okay, then you will give the temporal table name. So what happens for each and every row that you are creating, a data will be recorded in the associated temporal table. Say suppose I have an employee, you are creating an employee table and saying that system versioning, that is the format, that is the syntax of the table, system versioning, then employee dot temp or employee underscore history. Then what happens? All the history data will be maintained in the employee underscore history based on the start date and end date, whatever the options that you give. Okay, so it is very easy to get the data at any point of the time, all the history. So I was more interested in preserving the history. I was trying to capture all the changes between the different time intervals. Then at the time we went for the temporal tables and we don't need to manage explicitly SCD. Okay, but in Synapse dedicated SQL pool, there is no concept of temporal table. Now the question is Azure Synapse. There is no concept of temporary table, then I need to go for the SCD type 2. If it is just Azure SQL, then I would go for the temporal table. Getting? Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So you try to go over temporal table and try to understand here. It is very simple, same like simple creation of the table syntax only. The only thing is that you will use some keywords like system versioning, then you will give the whatever the table name where you want to preserve the history. So each and every time a row is inserted here, the previous session will be inserted into the temporal table. Say suppose you are updating a record, then updating a employee record of 7, then employee record of 7 will be preserved in the temporal versioning table with the from date and to date. Suppose you are deleting a record of employee number 8, then employee number 8, whatever you delete, that will be stored in the employee history table. Okay, that is the concept of temporal table. Okay, now see here, we did not discuss about the data encryption and masking data, but see here, just by the simple logic, you should be able to answer this question. Okay, so you have dedicated SQL pool, you have two users, user 1, user 2. User 1 has the role of server admin, user 2 has DB data reader. So remember that user 1 is only admin, user 2 is data reader. Okay, now here I'm trying to get the questions from here. Sorry, this is the scheme of my table where all the data is masked over here. Okay, and this is a masking. Whenever you want to encrypt the data or mask the data, you can apply some functions on the fields in the Synapse or Azure SQL. Okay, where you can apply some of the masking functions. So these are the normal masking functions which we have: default, email. These are some of the masking functions. Okay, so date you are asking default masking function, and in varchar you are saying that email, you just mask it. So what do you say whenever it says that it will mask, it will use the first character, then it will mask rest of the things. Default means it will always give the default data. Okay, now user 2 is querying the yearly income data, then what should be the value? Okay, so user 2, what is the user 2 role here?
Reader.
Reader. Okay, so you should remember that whenever the data reader is there, Okay, if it will not be able to access the actual values, but it will be able to access only the masking function data. Okay, now here the data is income. So what is the income here? Yearly income. The value will be default. Okay, for integer, for money, the default value will be 0. Okay, now as I mentioned till default, you will be able to see only the default data, not actual data. So your income is money, so you will be able to see only, you'll be able to see what? 0. You should be able to see only 0. Suppose user 1 is doing birth date column. Birth date has default function date column, and user 1. Who is the user 1 here? Server admin. So what you will be seeing the data? The values which are stored in the database, he will be able to see. Okay, the actual, because he is the admin, so he has access to actual values. Okay, so we don't need to mask the data. So you'll see the actual value. But if user 2 is there, user 2 is there, then you will see default value, which is nothing but 190101 is the default value for the date column. Okay, so you can see about masking functions, but this should be enough for you to understand. And this one.
Pushpendra,
Right?
I'm dropping. I have called.
Yeah, fine, you can drop. So we'll discuss for 5-10 minutes more and we'll end up. Now see here, you have a table, enterprise data warehouse in Azure Synapse Analytics. You have some table name called ext items. The table name is ext items to query the Parquet files. This is an external table. Remember that this is an external table. Okay, now external table has 3 columns already, and you will discover that the Parquet file have 4th column. So basically the Parquet file has 4 columns, but by mistake, or you are not, you are needing only, you are in need of only 3 columns. You created a Parquet table with only 3 columns, but now you need to add one more column known as item ID. Okay, and this is a external table. Okay, and which command you need to run to add this item ID? So whether you say alter, or you drop create external format, then external file format, or you just create external table, then create the table that you need to answer, or alter table, add item int. So which you will go for? Yes, you will go with the C. There is no concept of alter external table in the Synapse. So always you should go with the dropping the table and creating the table. So first thing is you can rule out D, because there is no terminology like external, even though if it is alter is available. So you can rule out D. B, then I don't need to drop the file format. Why should I drop the format? Okay, because the format itself is Parquet. So I'll rule out B and D. The leftover options are A and C. And A saying alter, so there is less possibility of alter in the Synapse, then they'll go for the C. So sometimes you should analyze, even though you did not read about that, you should make a proper guess with the knowledge whatever you have. Okay, as you mentioned C, that's how you should think logically and answer it. All right. And this one we discussed data storage, and before that let me discuss this question which we did not discuss. Here 2 storage accounts, storage 1 and storage 2. Each account holds 1 container and has a hierarchical namespace enabled. That means it is a ADLS2. The system has files that are contain the data stored in the Parquet format. You need to copy folders from files from storage 1 to storage 2 by using data factory copy activity. The solution must meet the following requirement. So basically you have 2 storage ADLS2 account. Hierarchical namespace enabled means it is ADLS2. So you have storage 1 and storage 2, 2 files, 2 folders we have. So to this one, two accounts you have. So you need to copy the files from account 1 to account 2. Account 1 has hierarchical name, hierarchical folders. Account 2 also hierarchical folder. So you need to copy, and no transformation is required. The original folder structure should be available. So whatever the structure is there, the same structure should be there. Okay, how do you configure? Very simple. Source dataset. What is the source dataset type? Parquet format. And what is the copy activity copy behavior? If you see the format in the data sync, you will see the activity copy behavior. You will see. Now here copy behavior. Now the data should be in the same hierarchical speed, hierarchical format. So I'll go with the. I'll go for what?
Preserve hierarchy.
Preserve hierarchy. Very simple. I'll go for the preserve hierarchy. That means I want to retain the same hierarchy in the storage one. I want to copy the same level. Okay. If you want to merge all those single, then you'll go for the merge files. Okay. Merging files. If you have many files, then you can merge it. Flatten hierarchy means all the files will be only one level of hierarchy. But you want to preserve the same hierarchy, I'll go for the preserve hierarchy. Azure SAM Analytics can work by acting as a one-stop shop to meet all your analytical needs. It offers both serverless and dedicated SQL pool. Okay, this is a distributed query system that enables you to implement data warehousing and data visualization using standard SQL. Okay, he's asking, what is the technology where you can implement data warehouse and data visualization using T-SQL in Synapse? Which is the one? In the Synapse, which helps us to data warehousing? Which one?
Azure SQL pool.
Azure SQL pool. Azure SQL pool helps us to implement the data warehousing and all in the Synapse. You have started a new job at a company which has data like storage Gen 2 account. You have been tasked with uploading a single file to the account, and you want to use a tool that you don't have to install and configure. So how do you upload the file?
Azure Storage Explorer.
See, read the last line.
Do
You want to use a tool that you don't have to install or configure.
Yeah,
Azure portal.
Azure portal. You should not install any tool. Then Azure, then Storage Explorer, then you need to install, right? You need to download and install. You need to connect.
Yeah.
Then Azure portal, simply go and upload it. That's it. Okay, so you need to read the question full properly. Then you will be able to answer. Okay, it's very simple. One of you read and answer me very quickly.
Azure Data Factory is composed of 4 core components. These components work together to provide the platform on which you can compose data-driven workflows with steps to move and transform the data. Which component is best described by? It has information on the different data sources and data factory uses this information to connect to data originating sources. It is mainly used to locate the data source in the machines and also represent the compute services for the activity to be executed, such as running Spark jobs on Spark clusters and running Hive queries using the Hive services from cloud.
Yeah. So at the second sentence itself, you should be able to answer it.
Running Spark
Linked
jobs.
services.
Yeah, it's linked research. It's mainly used to locate the data stores in the machines and also represents the compute service for the activity to be executed. Then the linked service is the one which locates the data store. Okay, it's like a connection string. Okay. You are determining the type of Azure services needed to fit the following specification. Data classification is unstructured. Operations only need to be retrieved by the ID. Customers require a high number of read operations with low latency. Create and updates will be somewhat infrequent and can have higher latency than read operations. Retrieval by ID need to be supported. Okay, transactional support not required at all. So which one you'll go for? Unstructured data and transaction is not required.
Azure Cosmos DB.
queue storage, I don't go root, I'll go for SQL database, I don't go. So I'll have Cosmos DB and blob storage, and it has unstructured data. I'll go for the blob storage only because transactional support, I don't need any transactional support. I'll go for the simply blob storage.
But the blob storage is basically used for to store the audio, video, or
No.
files.
Also, I told that unstructured data also I said, right? It's stored for structured and unstructured data.
Okay.
Okay, just revise that.
I thought Azure Cosmos DB.
No. The transaction support is not required. Then blob storage is enough. Anyway, we'll discuss more about Cosmos DB. So we'll see. And here there is nothing. He's saying that a data project is there and there is a resource who perform all the technologies which gets the data from the source, and it performs like the initial data sources securely and seamlessly integrated with other data platform technologies. So of course there will be data engineer only. Data engineer is the one who provisions all the data platform technologies promised in the cloud. So don't get confused. And of course, most of the cases will be data engineer only. And for the missing words, data is typically stored in relational database such as SQL Server, Azure SQL Server database. Okay, data is typically stored. Okay, so what type of data will be stored in the relational database, SQL Server and Azure SQL Server database?
Structured.
Structured, unstructured, semi-structured, JSON. So structured is the one because in relational database we always store the structured data. Okay, so I just copy twice. Okay, so this is the last question which we'll discuss. We have anything else? Student, the developer hub is where you access the following. Okay, now you tell me here in Azure Synapse Studio, if you remember Synapse Studio, the developer hub is where you access the following. So you have develop, monitor, manage, data hub and all, right? So you have the developer hub. So what do you do in the develop hub?
You can write, the notebooks we can open.
Yeah.
Data.
One is notebook. Yeah. One is the data flow. Then
the Synapse Studio, right? Yeah, we can do pipelines, SQL scripts.
Yes, so notebooks, data flow, then the SQL script. How many you have? Select to 4 you have, right? So provision, SQL pool database, no. External data source, no. Activities, no. So we have SQL scripts, data flow, notebooks, and what is the one more thing it has? No service. That will be done in the manage only. Data flow
Pipeline canvas.
Yeah, maybe pipeline canvas should be there. No, activities.
Canvas
it should be activities, I think. Just recheck and find out the 4th one. Okay, the activities.
Because pipeline is only we are using Azure Data Factory, right?
Yeah, but there also we have pipelines, something called pipelines where you develop the ADF pipelines.
No, in Azure Synopsys, there are also we are using pipeline.
Yeah, there is something called pipelines. I discussed it, right? Where you can create a pipelines. I'll show you that. I was saying that, right? In the same ADF, like say ADF, we have pipelines where you can create the pipeline similar to ADF. Now tell me here very quickly, the last question we'll discuss and end up. In some cases, the code-free transformation at scale may not meet the requirement. You can use Azure Data Factory to ingest raw data collected from different sources and work with a range of compute resources as Azure Databricks. The following steps to required when you implementing data ingestion and transformation using the collective abilities of Azure Data Factory, Azure Databricks. So what is the order that you do? So what is the order? First, what do you do? So basically what he's trying to say is get the data from there using Azure Data Factory, ingest it, then you perform all the operation using the Databricks. Okay, so what is the first thing that you do here?
Create
Create
Create a,
Azure Data Factory.
storage.
Okay, create storage.
for this first you need to create the storage account, because you need to get the data, ingest and store the data in the storage account, right? Storage account. So the answer could be either B or D. C and B are ruled out. Sorry, this C and D are ruled out. Either A or B is the answer, right? Now create, where is that, storage account? Then what you will do? Create the data factory. Then B, D. Then I don't need to think about the next series of steps. So this should be good. So what you do here? B, create Azure storage account. Then create Azure data factory. Then you create actual pipeline. Then you create the Azure Databricks notebooks. Then you perform the analysis. Simple. Even though you don't know about Databricks, you should be able to answer this question, right? Right? So that's how you need to read the question properly, each and every line, each and every sentence. Then you will go with the list of steps, and you should start learning how to filter out the questions. Even though you don't, sometimes even though you don't know the technology, you can filter out with simple logic. Okay. So that's how the answer should be selected in the exam.